Over 60% of Coachella attendees financed their tickets this year. About 56% of millennials have used buy now, pay later services, and now you can even split payments on a pizza delivery. We've entered a strange new world where nothing is purchased outright anymore. It's all just financed. So I had to break down how we got here and what it means for the economy. If you've shopped online recently, you've probably noticed those little buttons at checkout. Pay in 4 interest-free installments. They're everywhere, from high-end electronics to fast fashion websites, but now they're showing up in increasingly bizarre places. DoorDash recently partnered with Klarna to let you finance your takeout.
And now DoorDash is partnering with Klarna to do this so that you can buy $40 worth of chips and guac and pay it $10 4 times. I'm calling it eat now, pay later. You know? It's like...
That's right. You can now buy now, pay later for a burrito that you'll digest before you've even made your second payment. When financing food delivery becomes normalized, we should probably take a step back and ask what's actually happening here. This isn't just about convenience. It's about a fundamental shift in how we think about purchasing, debt, and our relationship with money. And the implications might be more serious than you think. The buy now, pay later industry exploded during the pandemic, with companies like Affirm, Klarna, and Afterpay becoming household names. What started as a way to finance big-ticket items has morphed into a system where literally anything can be broken into manageable payments. But here's the thing, when everything is financed, nothing feels expensive anymore. That $200 jacket, it's just $50 today. That $1,000 phone, just $250 now. That $20 pizza, just $5 today. The psychological trick is powerful. By breaking costs into smaller chunks, these services make everything seem more affordable than it actually is. But to get this truly, we have to understand how we got here. After World War II, America had a problem. The industrial machine built for war needed new purposes, and encouraging consumer spending became the solution. Kenneth Jackson noted that in 1946, there were only 8 shopping centers in America. By 1960, there were over 4,000. Our economy transformed to depend on consumption. Fast forward to today, and consumer spending accounts for a staggering 69% of America's GDP. For comparison, in China, it's only 38%. Even in the European Union, it's just 51%. Americans are by far the best consumers on the planet. But there's a problem. Our wages haven't kept up with inflation, especially for essentials like housing. So how do we keep consuming at the expected rate? You guessed it. Financing for everything.
I think it's always important to look at your overall budget and figure out how much money every month do you want to devote to different buy now, pay laters, right?
The psychology behind buy now, pay later is fascinating. Our brains are wired to prefer immediate rewards over delayed gratification when we can get something now and worry about paying later. That dopamine hit is irresistible. It's the same mechanism that makes credit cards so dangerous, but with even fewer guardrails. One 26-year-old quoted in a recent article described buy now, pay later as feeling like free money. She ended up $4,000 in debt from what started as small, seemingly manageable purchases. This isn't uncommon according to LendingTree. 1 in 3 buy now, pay later customers has paid late at least once. What makes these services particularly concerning is how they target those least able to afford them. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau found that the majority of buy now, pay later customers have subprime or deep subprime credit scores. These are people who already struggle with credit, now being offered a new form of debt with fewer protections. Unlike credit cards, which are heavily regulated, buy now, pay later services exist in what Jennifer Chen from Consumer Reports calls a legal gray area that leaves consumers vulnerable. Many don't report to credit bureaus when you pay on time, but they'll certainly report when you don't, creating a one-way street that can only harm your credit score. The interest rates if you miss payments can be astronomical, up to 36%. In some cases, that's significantly higher than the average credit card rate of 24%, which is already considered predatory. What's particularly alarming is how these services are now being used for essentials. According to NBC News, young people are increasingly using buy now, pay later for groceries and daily necessities. When you're financing food, that's not a sign of financial innovation. It's a warning sign about the state of the economy. Think about it. In the 1960s, adjusted for inflation, a fridge cost $4,000, a color TV was $9,000, and a microwave was $5,000. These were luxury items that required saving or financing. Today, consumer goods are relatively cheap, but essentials like housing and healthcare have skyrocketed. So we flipped the script. We finance essentials while splurging on luxuries. This creates a dangerous cycle. The more we normalize financing everything, the more we disconnect from the true cost of our purchases. And when economic downturns hit, as they inevitably do, those multiple payment plans suddenly become overwhelming. The data shows this is already happening. The bottom 20% of households are spending $727 more than they make after taxes every year, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's not sustainable. What's particularly concerning is how this affects work behavior. Studies by the National Institute of Health found that workers with high debt are less likely to change jobs, more likely to work unpaid overtime, and less likely to demand better pay and benefits. In other words, debt makes for more compliant workers who accept worse conditions because they're financially trapped. The subscription economy compounds this problem. When everything from software to streaming services to meal kits requires a monthly payment, losing income even temporarily can be catastrophic. You don't own anything to tide you over. So what can we do about this? On an individual level, the answer is straightforward but challenging. Resist the temptation. Just because you can finance something doesn't mean you should. If you can't afford to pay for something outright, except for true assets like a home, you probably can't afford it at all. For those who do use buy now, pay later services, treat them like debit cards, not free money. Only purchase what you know you can pay off. Set up automatic payments so you never miss a deadline, and keep track of how many payment plans you have active at once. On a societal level, we need better regulation. These services should have the same consumer protections as credit cards. They should report positive payment history to credit bureaus, not just negative marks. And there should be limits on how essential items like groceries can be financed. But more fundamentally, we need to reconsider our consumer-driven economy. When 69% of our GDP depends on people buying things often, things they can't afford, we've created a system that's inherently unstable. The rise of financing everything isn't just about individual choices, it's a symptom of deeper economic issues. Wages haven't kept pace with the cost of living. Housing has become unaffordable in most major cities. Healthcare costs continue to rise. In this context, buy now, pay later isn't just a convenience. For many, it feels like the only way to maintain a standard of living. The irony is that while consumer goods have become cheaper thanks to globalization and technological advances, the things that truly matter, housing, education, healthcare, have become more expensive. So we finance the essentials while splurging on the extras, creating a distorted relationship with money. This distortion is particularly pronounced among younger generations. Growing up in an era of economic uncertainty, with student loans as their introduction to adult finances, many see debt as simply a fact of life. Or when you already owe tens of thousands in student loans, what's another few hundred in buy now, pay later purchases? The normalization of debt starts early. College students are targeted with credit card offers the moment they step on campus. Buy now, pay later services are marketed heavily on social media platforms frequented by younger users. The message is clear: this is just how you buy things now. But there's a cost to this mindset. Financial stress is linked to anxiety, depression, and even physical health problems. When every purchase becomes an ongoing financial commitment rather than a completed transaction, the mental burden accumulates. The buy now, pay later industry knows this, of course. Their business model depends on a certain percentage of users missing payments and incurring fees or interest. It's not an accident that these services are designed to be frictionless at the point of purchase, but often confusing when it comes to managing payments. Consider the language used. Split your purchase sounds much better than take on debt for. Pay in 4 sounds simpler than make 4 separate payments that you'll need to keep track of. It's marketing that deliberately obscures the reality of what's happening. This isn't to say that financing is always bad. There are legitimate uses for installment plans.
And then also you've got another firm called Affirm and JP Morgan. They're doing this for online checkout. And also Affirm is partnering with somebody called Future Health for the GLP-1 drugs, for weight loss consultants.
Particularly for necessary large purchases that would otherwise be unattainable. But when we start financing $20 takeout orders, we've crossed into dangerous territory. The broader economic implications are concerning too. Consumer spending driven by debt is inherently unstable. When economic conditions worsen, as they inevitably do in cycles, those who have overextended themselves through multiple financing arrangements are the first to cut back spending dramatically. This creates a feedback loop. Economic uncertainty leads to reduced spending, which leads to job losses, which leads to more economic uncertainty. When a significant portion of consumer spending is debt financed, this cycle can accelerate quickly. We've seen this before. Can you guess when? The 2008 financial crisis was fueled in part by excessive consumer debt, particularly mortgage debt. While buy now, pay later services aren't likely to cause a crisis of that magnitude on their own, they contribute to the overall debt burden carried by households. What's particularly concerning is how these services are expanding into new areas. Amazon now offers buy now, pay later options, so does Apple. Even healthcare providers are getting in on the action with services like Care Credit, allowing patients to finance medical procedures. The normalization of financing everything changes our relationship with money in profound ways. It disconnects us from the true cost of our purchases and encourages a mindset where immediate gratification trumps financial stability. So what's the solution? On an individual level, I think it starts with awareness. Recognize that buy now, pay later services are designed to make you spend more than you otherwise would. They're not doing you a favor. They're making a profit. Practice delayed gratification. Save for purchases rather than financing them. Create a budget that accounts for your actual income, not what you wish it was. And if you do use financing options, do so strategically and sparingly. On a societal level, we need better financial education. Schools rarely teach practical money management, leaving young people vulnerable to predatory financial products. We also need stronger consumer protections and regulations for buy now, pay later services. But most importantly, we need to address the underlying economic conditions that make financing everything seem necessary. When wages keep pace with the cost of living, when housing is affordable, when healthcare doesn't threaten bankruptcy, that's when people can afford to buy things outright. Until then, we'll likely see the financing trend continue to expand, more services, more products, more ways to split payments and defer costs. It's a symptom of our economic reality, not just a consumer preference. So the next time you see that pay in 4 button at checkout, pause and ask yourself, do I really need this now? Like, can I afford it outright? What happens if my financial situation changes before I've made all the payments? Because in a world where everything can be financed, the most valuable skill might be knowing when not to use that option. If you made it this far, more than likely you have something to say, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the matter. Do you know anyone who's used it, or have you yourself?